You have been speaking your entire life, and you are still losing. You are losing arguments you should win, losing respect you have earned, losing relationships you actually care about, not because you lack intelligence, but because nobody ever taught you how to deploy that intelligence through language. Most people treat communication like a release valve, something you open when pressure builds and close when the room goes quiet. But the most dangerous, most magnetic, most commanding people in any room treat every word they speak as a strategic decision, a calculated move in a psychological game most people don't even know they're playing. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. The person who controls their internal state controls the entire conversational field around them. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule an empire by shouting the loudest. He ruled by mastering the space between stimulus and response. Modern research on emotional regulation confirms that high-control communicators activate trust circuits in the brains of those listening to them. That is not charisma. That is engineering. If you are ready to stop reacting and start commanding every conversation you enter, drop a Stoic in the comments right now and let's begin the real work. You have been in that meeting where someone said something condescending and your mind went completely blank, only for the perfect, devastating response to arrive 3 hours later in the shower. You have been in that argument with someone you love where the volume kept rising. The words got uglier and you said something you cannot take back, not because you wanted to hurt them, but because your nervous system hijacked your mouth before your brain could intervene. You have been in that job interview, that pitch, that first impression moment where you knew what you wanted to say, but heard something awkward and unconvincing come out instead. These are not failures of intelligence. These are failures of emotional architecture. I know this intimately because I lived inside this cycle for years. I was the person who confused speaking fast with speaking well. I thought volume was authority, and that if I could just get all my thoughts out quickly enough, people would take me seriously. What I was doing was flooding every conversation with anxiety disguised as enthusiasm. I remember a specific moment. I was in a room full of people I respected deeply, making a point I genuinely believed in, and I watched their eyes glaze over one by one. Not because my idea was wrong, because the delivery communicated desperation, not conviction. That moment broke something open in me, and it pushed me toward the philosophy and psychology that I am going to give you today. The Stoics were not quiet people who accepted everything passively. That is one of the most damaging misconceptions about this philosophy. Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery and had every external freedom stripped from him, built an entire school of thought around one radical idea: that your inner world is the only sovereign territory you will ever truly own. And that sovereignty, once mastered, makes you unconquerable in every external arena, including the arena of human communication. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that you have power over your mind, not outside events, and that realizing this is where your freedom begins. He was writing that not as theory, but as a daily personal directive from the most powerful man in the Roman world, a man who was constantly tested by betrayal, war, and the weight of leadership. Seneca took it further into practical territory when he wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, which means most of what destroys your communication. The fear of judgment, the anxiety about how you are perceived, the defensive posturing, is a mental construct, not an objective threat. The dichotomy of control, which is the philosophical spine of Stoicism, teaches you to clearly separate what is within your power from what is not. You cannot control how someone responds to your words. You can absolutely control the quality, intention, and emotional temperature of those words. That distinction, fully internalized, is where communication mastery actually begins. The first principle is strategic silence. Most people are terrified of silence in conversation because they have been conditioned to treat it as emptiness that needs to be filled. But silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. When you pause before responding, you are signaling to the other person's nervous system that you are not reactive, that you have control, that your words are selected rather than spilled. The next time someone challenges you, try saying nothing for 3 full seconds before you speak. You will watch the entire dynamic shift in real time. The psychological impact is profound. Silence reads as confidence, and confidence reads as authority. The second principle is the 3 filters. Before any significant statement, run your words through 3 questions drawn directly from Stoic virtue ethics. Is it true? Is it necessary? And does it improve upon the silence? This is not about being passive. It is about being precise. The person who says fewer, better things is always more credible than the person who speaks constantly, but carelessly. When you train yourself to filter before speaking, you stop creating conversational noise and start creating conversational signal. The third principle is control of interpretation. You do not control what people hear. You control what you say and how you frame it. High-intelligence communicators understand that language is not transmission, it is invitation. When you say, "I feel unheard in this dynamic," instead of "you never listen to me," you are giving the other person an invitation to engage rather than a reason to defend. That single shift in framing can be the difference between resolution and escalation. The fourth principle is the antifragile response. Nassim Taleb gave us the concept of antifragility, the idea that some systems don't just resist stress, they grow stronger because of it. Apply this to communication. When someone attacks you verbally, the fragile response is to collapse or explode. The antifragile response is to absorb the energy, stay grounded, and respond with something that makes your position stronger than it was before the attack. A line like, "I appreciate you pushing on that. Let me give you a more complete answer," disarms aggression and elevates your standing simultaneously. The fifth principle is virtuous communication. The Stoics believed that virtue was the only true good, and in communication, virtue means speaking in alignment with your values rather than in reaction to your emotions. Ask yourself before a difficult conversation, what kind of person do I want to be in this exchange? Not what outcome do I want to force. That orientation transforms your delivery from manipulative to magnetic. The sixth principle is detachment from validation. The moment you need the other person to agree with you in order to feel okay, you have surrendered your power. Detachment from validation does not mean indifference. It means your internal stability is not contingent on external approval. Speak your truth clearly, then release the outcome completely. Theory without practice is philosophy in a cage, and you did not come here for a cage. The first exercise is the 3-second pause rule. For the next 7 days, commit to pausing for 3 full seconds before responding in any emotionally charged conversation. Set a reminder on your phone. Make it a non-negotiable reflex. You will be surprised how differently the words arrive when you give them even that small window of space. The second exercise is reflection journaling. Every evening, write down one conversation where you spoke reactively and rewrite how you would respond using the 6 principles. This is not self-punishment. This is neurological rewiring through deliberate rehearsal. The third exercise is perspective reframing. When someone criticizes you, write down their criticism and then genuinely argue their case as if you agree with them. This builds the cognitive flexibility that makes you unshakable in real-time debate. The fourth exercise is controlled exposure to criticism. Deliberately seek out one piece of honest feedback each week from someone you trust. Train yourself to receive it with stillness. The ability to absorb criticism without collapsing is the single most powerful communication skill you can develop, and it only grows through practice. In 7 days, you will notice yourself pausing where you once reacted. In 30 days, people around you will begin to sense something different in how you carry yourself in conversation. In 90 days, you will not recognize the person who once needed conflict to feel heard. The shift is not in how you speak, The shift is in who is doing the speaking. As Marcus Aurelius understood, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be one. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. Drop your biggest communication challenge in the comments and begin today.